everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make cold porcelain, the non-cook version, and some ways to use it. And if you're not familiar with cold porcelain, it is a clay-like substance, and when it dries it has a very hard, smooth surface. And you don't cook it, not even to dry, it's an air dry, but there is a version that you can cook, and I made a video on that a couple years ago, and I'm going to put a link below in the description box to that if you would like to see that as well. But somebody had left a comment on there asking me about the non-cook version, and I had not heard of it, so I decided to give it a try. And since I like the way it turned out, I thought I would share it with you in case you don't want to use the cook version. And this is really simple. It just uses 4 non-toxic ingredients that you most likely already have around the house, but even if you don't, you can pick them up at the dollar store or Walmart really cheap. So let's head on over and get started. Okay, before I show you how to use that cold porcelain clay, I'm just going to show you a few things that I have made with it. So here is a necklace, and I made the mistake of using glossy accents over this, and so it kind of yellowed. But this is just a possibility. This one here is going to be a necklace. I just haven't found the necklace I want to put it on yet, but that was a flower that I made, and I glued it on to that little teardrop, and I had painted the teardrop, and well, let me see if I can get it closer so you can see some of the details of what I've done. And there we go. Let's see what else. This heart is going to be a necklace as well. And I don't know if you can see it on here, but see if I can get it close. It doesn't want to focus good. There's actually some pearly sparkle in there. I guess I'm calling it pearly sparkle. And that's because I actually colored the porcelain before molding it with this pearl paint. And you can do that. I'll tell you in a minute all about, how to color it or paint it, however you want to do it, like this when it was painted. And this is just another one that's going to be a necklace. Here's some that I did not color before molding because they can be painted afterwards. And I just wanted to show you all of the lovely detail. And these are just going to make gorgeous embellishments. And you can also use it with embossing folders. So this was originally just a little circle, a ball actually, and I put it inside the embossing folder and, kind of squished it together. I guess that would be the right word, and got this beautiful design in it, and it, turned into a circle. And look at these gorgeous butterflies. I have a fabulous butterfly mold that makes, 3 different size butterflies. And let's see what else we have here. Some feathers. Here's a couple of things that were molds and then I painted them. And you can even make your own beads. This is a really sloppy example of making your own bead, but you can make your own beads. And if you're really good at just doing freehand stuff that you don't need molds or cookie cutters or anything, this will be great for that too. All right, so now let's get on to how to make this stuff. Okay, if you're not going to be doing it, freehand, just modeling it with your hands, you will need some sort of molds or cookie cutters. And these are just silicone molds. You can pick these up on eBay or Amazon. I got this one at Michael's. So you can pretty much find them anywhere. There's also this type of mold, which is, this one is for making jewelry. And so it's a little bit harder plastic, but everything still comes out of it just fine. And, there's always cookie cutters. This is just an example, of course. Cookie cutters come in all kinds of sizes and shapes. So you're going to need something like this. And then also, if you are doing a mold, or even if you want to flatten things out, sometimes a brayer comes in handy. Or you can use, an old credit card, an old gift card or something. But that that's what you're going to need to make the mold. And then to color it, if you want to color it beforehand, you can always mix a little paint. You can use some re-inkers. You can use alcohol ink. I have used alcohol ink markers. You can use distress markers. You can use whatever you want. I can't tell you how much to use because I know that sometimes when I'm using paint, it takes a whole lot. When I'm using alcohol ink, it doesn't take as much. So you will actually have to experiment, and I suggest doing it a little at a time until you come up with the color, that you want. Or you can leave it completely uncolored, just like this, and then you can paint it afterwards, or use alcohol inks on it afterwards. Whatever you want to do, some metallic stuff. I'm sure you can think of all kinds of ways to make them beautiful. So with this all done here, let's get on to actually using it. Okay, let's go over some of the supplies that you're going to need to do this. You're going to need a bowl to mix this in, and if you have any concerns at all about making this in a bowl that you will be eating in at some point, then get a bowl from the dollar store or just a bowl you have around the house that you want to set aside just for this. I personally don't worry about it because everything is non-toxic, and I use a glass bowl because it is non-porous, and that is just my preference. You will also need some measuring cups, and you'll need a 3/4 and a 1/2. And again, you can pick those up at the dollar store if you would like. And a spoon for stirring, and some measuring spoons. I have a 1 tablespoon and a 1 teaspoon. And I have a rubber glove. That is optional, but it definitely comes in handy if you're doing this by yourself and you have to touch other things. So I have a rubber glove. Let's see what else. You will need some cling wrap. Oh, that's backwards. How about that way? Cling wrap to wrap it in afterwards, and some sort of container to put it in, an airtight container, and a piece of parchment paper or wax paper to be working with this dough on when we're kneading it here in a little while. So those are those supplies. And now for the ingredients, you are going to need some cornstarch. You are going to need some white Elmer's glue. And let me see if I can get that close so you can see that it is safe and non-toxic. And if any of you have kids that have been in school, you know that glue and paste when they're younger seems to find a way into their mouth. So it is non-toxic and safe. You will need some baby oil, and you don't have to have Johnson brand. You can get the dollar store brand if you would like, or you can even use olive oil. But I prefer baby oil because I like the smell of baby oil. And then you will need some lemon juice or vinegar. Okay, so that pretty much takes you through what you're going to need. So now let's get started. Let me just kind of move some things around here. And so, oh, by the way, if I were you, I would take off your jewelry while doing this. Have short sleeves on so you don't have your sleeves in the way, and probably put your hair back in a ponytail. It's kind of messy. So we're going to start off with 3/4 of a cup of cornstarch. I'm just going to pour that in the bowl. And then we have a 1/2 cup of the Elmer's glue. And I'm just going to pour that in here. And that's a slow process. Tell you what, let me help it out. I'll just get the spoon and stick it in there. Like I said, if you don't want a spoon or something that you're going to be eating off from, just find an old spoon somewhere at a secondhand store, the dollar store, or find a stick, I guess a sturdy popsicle stick possibly. But there we go. Okay. And let me set this aside and grab the next ingredient here. I'm going to put in the lemon juice. It doesn't matter what order, but I'm going to be using 1 tablespoon. So just open this up here and one tablespoon of lemon juice. And next we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of baby oil, or whatever oil you choose to use. But my preference is baby oil. Get this opened up here. Now keep the baby oil on hand, or whatever oil you're going to use, because you're going to want to put some on your hands when working with this, because the oil will help. But I mean, if you're using a rubber glove, you still might want to put oil. I'm going to leave that open. In fact, you still might want to put oil on the other hand when you go to use it. Okay, so now we're just going to mix. You know, just stir it around gently. We don't want everything to go flying. Like right now, this looks really dry, but I happen to know from experience that once we start working with it, it will not look as dry. So now is the time for me to put on that rubber glove, and also to bring this over and have this ready to go. And I will be showing you the consistency that it needs to be. So let me see here, get my rubber glove on. And I should probably take my watch off just in case. So I'm going to take that off. And I think I'll put a little baby oil on this hand. Spread it around a little bit. Okay, so now, and this is why you need baby oil. And this is why I was only going to work with one hand. So let's try it this way. There we go. I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to set the spoon down, and I'm just going to reach in here and I'm going to start working it around and just squeezing it, you know, kneading it. And we just keep doing this. Sometimes it's stickier than others. My last batch, my glove was just totally a mess, and that could happen. So we're just going to keep kneading it around in the bowl for a little bit until we can really get it closer to making a ball with it. Look at that. It just sticks. Okay, but this is actually looking pretty good, and I don't want it to stick to this hand, so I might wait a minute. It still feels a little sticky. Yep, check it out. That's why you want to wear a rubber glove or have somebody with you, because if you have this on both of your hands, you are not going to be able to touch anything. And it gets better as time goes on, but in the beginning of this process, it really does get really sticky. And I really want to add a little bit of oil to my hand here. Kind of a tricky way to do it. See if I got some oil out there. Okay. Let me see what I can do here. Just pull off what I can. And now I'm going to remove the glove. Probably leave that in the bowl. Grab this out. And hopefully I waited long enough so that it's not going to be sticking to me really bad. Okay, there we go. Now it's on the parchment. I've got that out of there. I'm going to move the bowl aside now. And with both hands free and not in a glove, I'm definitely adding some baby oil. And I'm going to move this out here. Let me see if I can move my spoon out of the way. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. And you're just going to want to knead it. So see, now it's not sticking, and the baby oil really helps. And let me see if I can get this close to the camera. So you can see that it's like really soft, and it does not look dry at all. See how easy this pulls? Kind of like taffy. But I'm looking at this, and consistency-wise, I'm going to knead it here for a minute, but consistency-wise, it still might be a little too soft, and I'm going to show you how to tell. I know my camera is like clear across the table, but this is the only way that I could kind of get all of this on camera. Okay, so Let me make a little ball here. Okay, I'm going to pull off a piece. See how it does that? It's not supposed to droop like that. So, while it's right here, just pat it out there a little bit. I am going to grab the cornstarch and 1 teaspoon, okay? We are only going to add 1 teaspoon at a time because it may only take 2 teaspoons, it may take 3, or it may only take 1. So just kind of try to keep all of that cornstarch in there and just start kneading it again. You'll feel it feels kind of squeaky once you add the cornstarch. It's just how cornstarch feels. And you know, for a minute you might worry that it might be too dry, but that's why you only add a little at a time. And then you keep kneading it in, because in the places where like the cornstarch was not mixed well, that will seem really dry and you don't want it to be really dry. Okay, so now the consistency is definitely getting better. Let me get it over here so I can show you again. Okay, now we're going to pull it. And did you notice it's not drooping as fast as it was before? So I am thinking I'm going to add 1 more. And I'm pretty sure that's all it's going to need. So 1 more teaspoon of cornstarch. I'll just kind of try to roll it up in there a little bit. It makes it easier to knead so that it's not flying everywhere, which you can already see. It's kind of everywhere. Okay. All right. Just start kneading it again. And let me show you. See where it looks like it's just breaking apart and dry? Don't let that fool you. Keep kneading it, because that's just where the cornstarch was, so those areas look drier until you get it all mixed in really good. And if you ever feel like there is a possibility it might have gotten a little bit too dry, which I don't think this did, so I'll just show you here in a second, because now it's starting to feel nice and smooth and sticky again. And I'm sorry if I keep getting off camera a little bit. Try to keep it right in here where you can see it. Okay, this feels like it's probably going to be perfect. So here, let's just, there we go. Okay, so just pull it off. And it's still a little droopy, but I actually think if it sits a little bit, it should be just right, because it feels just right in my hands while I'm squeezing it. You don't want it to be, you want it soft, but you don't want it like gooey soft. And you want it firm, but you don't want it like a hard ball, okay? So, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny bit more, because I did lose a lot of it here. I'm not going to add a whole teaspoon. I'm just going to add, you know, part of a teaspoon this time. And then I'm going to tell you what you can do if you think you've got it too dry. Okay, so I'm going to, yeah, cornstarch is really squeaky. Okay, so if for any reason you think that you put too much cornstarch, you know, you went to all of this work and you're going, oh my gosh, you know, what have I done? I've made it too dry or whatever. I'm going to show you. Take a little baby oil, put it on your hands, get a little bit more, because that baby oil will then absorb into your cold porcelain mix here. Because see, look at, hold on. See how it looks like it's cracking right there? Not cracking, but you know, it just doesn't look as soft as you'd want it to look. It kind of looks like when things are too dry and they kind of split. But we're going to mix this around really good. And now we're going to take another look at it, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's done. Trust me, it's done. But if you ever feel it's not, like I said, you can always add a little bit more cornstarch. And then if you feel you added too much of that, you can add a little bit more baby oil. You can do this all day long. But here we go. I'm going to just, you want to pinch it and then pull. and it's supposed to create like a teardrop. But I've discovered with this no-cook porcelain that the teardrops still stretch out a little bit too much as opposed to the cooked. So I think that this is just perfect, and this is what we're going to use. So what do we do next? Well, we're just going to make a little ball out of this, and I'm going to sit it down right there. Now, didn't really want to sit it in the middle of all the cornstarch. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get your cling wrap. You're going to tear off a piece. And my roll is almost empty here. Okay. So lay out your piece of cling wrap, plastic wrap, whatever kind you're using. You're going to take this, and I'm going to dust off that cornstarch because I don't want it on there. Okay. And I'm just going to plop this down in there, and I'm going to wrap it up really firm. We do not want any air bubbles in here, so pull it tight, including the ends. Notice how it all stretched out after I did that, so I'm just going to kind of roll up the ends a little bit here. I think I actually need more plastic wrap. Okay, so you want to get it wrapped nice and airtight, and then let me see if it'll fit in the one I brought over here, but I'm going to put it in here to store it. So, yep, it would have fit if I would have not made it long and made it more square. Okay, so there you go. And my suggestion is after you make it, I like to let it set 24 hours before using it. So when we head over to the rest of my craft table, or maybe when I bring everything over here, I will be using some that I actually made a couple of days ago, and I'm going to show you how to use it. But this was just how to make it. Okay, I think I'm going to use this flower mold and the jewelry mold. And let me just move this out of the way a little bit. I'm going to open this up, and this is one I've made previously. And you always want to keep it really airtight all the time. And, you know, we talked about when you pull it off, you want it to pull off like that. Okay? That's the consistency that you're going to want. And I'm going to take this little piece right here, just kind of flatten it out a little bit. And I know you're all cringing, but it's my alcohol ink marker, and you guys can use what you want. So I'm just adding some on here. And after adding it on here, I'm going to just kind of wipe it off on a, you know, piece of paper, not like wipe it off, but just swipe it across it in case there was any residue on it. And then we are just going to start mixing it. And I actually like doing this because you don't have to mix it all the way. You can actually leave it kind of marbled, and I really like that look a lot. So here we go. And as you can see, it isn't very dark. I don't know if you can see it. It's a really pretty lavender right now. And now I'm going to pick one of these flowers. And let me see. I think I'll do this one right here. And that might be enough. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just use the whole amount. Okay, and you just push it in there. And as you see, it comes out over the edges a little bit. And you can always wipe around the edges with your finger and just pull off the excess. But I'll let you know that even after it's dried, the very extremely thin stuff that may, you know, come out around the edges, you are able to break that off carefully, and it doesn't ruin the flower. So there we go.
Wasn't that easy? And if I think that it needs smoothing, I can always run a brayer across it. And this is air dry, so this is going to have to sit overnight. So when you're doing this, do keep in mind you don't just pop it in the oven and it'll be ready to go. This is air dry, so don't be in a hurry. Okay, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to bring over this mold, and I'm going to pull off another piece here. And I'm going to wrap this up because the air does dry it out quickly. So let me wrap that up really quick, set that aside. And again, I'm actually going to, you know what? Maybe I will color this with something else. I mean, you've already seen me use the marker. Let me grab a re-inker here. Trying to be really careful with it. And, you know, I don't know how much it's going to take, so I'll put a few drops on there. And then I don't want it on my fingers, so I'm rolling it up inside. And I'll probably still end up with some on my fingers. Let me put the lid on this so I don't spill it. And look at that, I did have a tiny little piece left over from the other one. You can always use that in something else. That probably would have fit in the tiniest butterfly that I have. Okay, so let's see how this re-inker works. It's not a very dark color, even though it looked dark when I put it down. So I'm not sure what it's going to do on here because it is basically that color, and it's called Sugar Plum. So you might want to wear gloves when doing this, just in case. Okay, so it is not showing up really dark on here at all. But it is still kind of pretty. I might add one more drop to it and try that. Don't want to keep you all hanging here, but this is an example of how you need to just experiment to see how a certain color is going to show up. Like the way I said, a drop, and I just did 3. Woo. Yeah, it's going to squeeze out the top. And I don't have gloves on. I threw away the glove I was working with earlier because, well, of course, it was all gunky. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Yep, I'm getting it on myself. But that's all right, you know? What is a crafter without ink on her fingers, right? Okay. So I kind of like the marbled look, so I'm going to leave it that way. And I didn't even measure out how much. I wasn't sure what I was going to use it in. It's not enough for that mold. Not enough for that mold. What mold do I want to use? You know, this kind of looks like a cool little shape. I don't think I've ever done that one. Let me see. Ooh, maybe I do have enough for something else. You know? But we'll do this one because I already did it. Just get it all squished in there good. Like I said, go around the edges, you know, get off the excess. Take your little brayer, roll across it, try to smooth it out. And I have some here and I don't want to waste it at all. I wonder if it works in this one. Oh, get back here. Well, it's not quite enough for in there, but it may work for something. It's kind of dented in. My whole finger is denting it in there. There wasn't quite enough. But you know what? I'm going to put it in there anyway. So now you've seen, you know, a couple of ways on how to color it beforehand and how to, you know, put it into a mold. And now we're going to go to some that I have in molds from yesterday, and we're going to pop them out. Okay, so you can barely see them in there because they're pink. And that's pink. And that's pink. So everything I did was pink. So basically it's as simple as just popping them out just like that. It's the really nice thing about using a silicone mold is that it is flexible and you can just pop them out and there you go. Now do you see there's a tiny bit on that one? Well, See if I can get in there. You can get in there. You can actually sand this stuff if you wanted to. But there you go. Beautiful little hearts. Look at that one, has it in the middle. Let me see if I can do this. See how I popped it right out? So that's what you can do when you have some of this excess showing around the edges. You can just break it right off carefully, just like that. Okay, so let's move that aside and let's see how these turned out. Ooh. These are not quite done. I popped these out too soon. Oh, my heart is broke. But let me show you what they look like. So this is the exact same flower, and it is absolutely beautiful. The deal is when you're working with molds that are that deep, do you see how deep that is? You sometimes have to leave them in a lot longer. So I actually popped it out too soon and my heart is broke. But at least you guys are getting to see that you don't want to take them out too soon, because can you see where it's still white there? That means it's not dry yet. And so when I pulled it out, it just messed it up. But when you're working with something that is not as deep, like these bows or like the butterflies or, you know, the feathers, those dry a lot quicker. So because of that, this is that deep. Do you see how deep that is? I'm not going to pull this one out right now, but it is a gorgeous flower. Let me see if I have one already made in my box. Oh, I'm not seeing one. I must have used it already. Okay, well, the deal is when they're really thick, you may have to leave them in there a lot longer. I just did these last night, so it hasn't even been 24 hours, and that was my bad. But as you saw, the bows came out absolutely beautiful. Aren't they just the cutest little things? And there's something else I want to show you. Well, I just wanted to show you that these are sturdy, okay? And here is one of the little delicate butterflies, not as thick as this. Okay, you ready? And it's still fine. And these are very lightweight. I mean, like, you can't even hardly feel that you have them in your hand. So these are very lightweight. Great embellishments, great jewelry. There's so much you can do with these, and they're really sturdy. And also, let me grab this one. Okay, so somebody had asked me, well, what happens if they get wet? And I got stuff on my fingers. And they thought that this was porous like clay. But this is not. It is smooth and shiny. And would I soak them in water? Probably not. But if they got wet, you know, like let's say that you were, I don't know, somewhere by a pool and it got wet and you're like, oh no, I better take it off, I'm sure it will be just fine. Just don't like put it in water to soak it. So now you've seen a variety of things that you can make. You've seen how sturdy they are. You've learned that they are, you know, non-porous. And there are so many ways you can do this. You can color them. You can put them in embossing folders. You can mess them up by pulling them out before they're dry. Boy, there is a lot. At least you got to learn that. Seriously, I'm leaving in little things like that. I'm not going to take it out and say, oh, I didn't want you to see that. I really want you to learn that because I don't want it to happen to you. But there's just so many things that you can do, so many ways to use it. Get back here, little guy, including making your own little beads if you want. So I hope you guys like this. And don't forget, I also have a video on doing the cooked version of this, where you use the microwave. And somebody left a comment on there about, oh, you'll never be able to use your microwave again because you put this in there, now it's toxic. Keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, there are no toxic ingredients in this. And number two, if you are doing the cooked version with the microwave, that you're only putting it in there for like 15 seconds at a time, and it's not putting off fumes. And, you know, it's food, honestly, other than the glue. So don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it. I mean, if you're worried about it, please take all the precautions you need to take. But I'll put a link below to the cooked version as well, because I was actually wondering if it being cooked made it stronger. But, I have been able to drop these and they didn't break. So I'm guessing it works either method, you know? So you try whatever one works for you or try them both. Okay, I thought I'd take a minute and come back and show you how beautiful those little roses turned out. Remember, I pulled them out before they were done? Well, now they are all dried and they are just beautiful. Look at those. So even if you pull it out too soon, you still might be able to salvage it. And those are perfect. And while we're at it, remember I said I needed to let this one sit longer because it was so deep? Well, let's see if we could pop this one out and see if it's done. There we go. It's not completely dry, so the lighter color that you see there is where it's still wet, but you can also see how beautiful it's going to be when it is completely dry, which will happen as it sits out. And then we did these yesterday, and we're going to pop that one right out for you. And again, it's beautiful, and that light part will dry while it sits out in the air. Because, as I said, these are air dry, so sometimes they need a little bit more drying time when you pull them out of the molds. But I just wanted to show you how beautiful they are.
Okay, how many of you thought that was an awesome way to make your own embellishments? Come on, raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, so now you're wondering, how much is it going to cost for the molds? Because you don't want to invest a lot of money in this. Well, guess what? If you search silicone molds on eBay, you will find them for as little as 99 cents. And just for example, this beautiful butterfly mold was $1.50. So it's really not that expensive. And I've decided, since I love you all so much, that I'm going to do a giveaway to help someone get started. So if you are interested in winning a mold, let me see here. We got the bow one. This is really awesome. We all use bows on things. I happen to have a brand new unopened one. And if you leave me a comment below and tell me that you really want to give this a try and you would love to be in this giveaway, then you will have a chance at winning that. So here's the deal. You must be 18 years or older. You must live in the United States because of shipping costs. And I'm going to leave this open through March 24th, which is my birthday. And then I will draw a winner. And so for those of you that may be watching this later, this is March 24th of 2020 that this giveaway will go through. So if you're watching it later, I am so sorry. But anyways, for those of you that are interested, leave me that comment and I will draw a name and the lucky winner will get that mold. Happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.